Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So, in today's video, we're going to be talking about a subject that I haven't really addressed here on the channel, and it's certainly a hot button topic that, well, people are very opinionated about this. So, let's try to, we'll leave opinion out of it. Maybe you'll give a little opinion at the end, and we'll talk about some of the facts of things. And who knows, maybe, you know what, while I'm talking to you, I'll roll some footage and we'll go for a drive or something. That way you don't have to look at me the whole time, right? So what are we talking about today? We're talking about rockhounding locations that have been quote unquote trashed. Okay, this whole subject of more rockhounds, meaning places that are destroyed, all of those things that we see come up in conversation here come up. Well, it's something that I've personally said, you know, when I started rockhounding, and you see locations that are all dug up and everybody's like, this is what our location looks like when it's trashed. Well, I kind of repeated that without really thinking it through. Like, is that actually trashed? Is the trash that you do see when you do see it the result of rockhounds? And in the past like 6 months or so, I've really started to question some of these theories that people have. And I'm like, well, okay, if they're true, they should hold up to scrutiny, right? Like, extend that line of thinking out a couple of positions and see if it falls apart. So I just want you to hear me out here. I'm not convinced that I'm 100% right in my opinion, and I'm open to changing my mind. So if somebody has an argument, I would love to hear it. Okay, so we'll just kind of jump right into this now. So first off, I think we need to say that rockhounding, it's not popular at all compared to other forms of outdoor activities. You know, when you see an area, right, that's known for its rockhounding and you see garbage, I think it was very likely not left at that location by somebody rockhounding. And it's much more likely that it was left by somebody participating in more popular outdoor activities, such as hunting, fishing, hiking, shooting, riding dirt bikes, or simply just like going out to the woods and like drinking, camping, those sorts of things. And, you know, as a little bit of a side note right now, a lot of the public lands out in the western United States that we use for rockhounding, you know, like BLM, DNR, these places, you know, they double as popular places for people to go do their full-time van life thing. You know, kind of tweakers and RVs out there. I see that. And these are the types of people that actually leave trash behind. You know, I've personally witnessed this firsthand. And, you know, when you see an area, right, that is exclusively visited by rockhounds, like there's zero other people going there, and you see trash, I don't think it's actually left behind by, you know, somebody who is a rockhound, but rather, you know, it's somebody merely participating in the activity of rockhounding. Like, if I was to stand up right now and start dancing, right, does that make me a dancer? Does, you know, doing the robot or the Charleston in my workshop, does that make me a dancer, or does somebody dancing? You see what I mean, right? And, you know, I think that's important to point out. And, you know, I think a lot of people, they have a bias towards thinking the things that they like is more popular than it actually is. Because rockhounding, I don't think it's very popular. You know, there's a thing called the Bador, I'm going to butcher this, the Bador-Meinhof phenomenon, which is it's a frequency illusion, right? So the more something becomes your world, the more likely you are to see it. You know, like you bought a red car, so you see red cars all over the place. But let's not just make assumptions here. Let's look at some facts, okay? So, hold on, grab a drink of water here. All right, let's look at REI, recreational equipment, something. They're an outdoor gear outfitter. So the year is 2020. They had a revenue of $2.75 billion. Cabela's, which that's another outfitter, and they have a focus on hunting and fishing. Their revenue, $4.1 billion. And then you have Polaris. They make motorcycles, snowmobiles, ATVs, that type of stuff. They have a revenue of about $6.7 billion. So I think you get what you catch my drift here. Rockhounding is not popular. Pretty much nobody cares about it when compared to other outdoor activities. And I mean, I guess you could argue that it's not a fair comparison since you don't really have to buy things to go rockhounding. But when we look at popular Facebook groups as a measurement of interest, there's a few big rockhounding related Facebook groups, and they range between 20 and 40,000 users. And you can assume that there's overlap between those, right? Like, same person, it might be in both of these. And then also there's going to be a large number of those people that are like, hey, I found this rock in my backyard. What is it? And they're not really rockhounds. They're just in the group. And then you compare that to, let's say, bigger hiking groups, which have a user base of 150,000 to 350,000 people. And there's a lot more of those big groups. So rockhounding versus hiking, like hiking nukes rockhounding out of the water, right? So I think it just goes to show that it's not popular at all. And it would be really hard for me to try to talk about every single location in America. Like, I can't do that here in a video, but I will pick one spot to talk about. And I'm going to talk about Hanson Creek. Okay, Hanson Creek is located in western Washington. It is a popular place to go get quartz crystals, and amethyst is it's there, but kind of rare. Amethyst tipped quartz crystals. It has been visited since the 1970s. Yeah, maybe a little bit into the 60s. So we have decades and decades of people going up to Hanson Creek and digging. And it's located pretty close to Seattle, Washington, which is a very big West Coast city, right? So I've done some measurements, and the size of the Hanson Creek dig area, and this is being extremely generous, right? It's about 22 acres. And, I think the dig site, though, realistically, it might be in the range of 12 to 15 acres is probably a more accurate size. And to give you some ideas of what Hanson Creek, that 12 to 15 acres looks like, it's dug up, right? Like, there's no denying that. People have been going there for decades, digging for crystals. There's trees have fallen down. There's holes. There is garbage occasionally. Relatively minor amounts, but it's certainly there. To give you some perspective, though, the size of the road from the point in which you leave the highway and you start driving to Hanson Creek, and you get to the area, you park. Now, let's just assume the road's 20 feet wide, but it's actually wider because, there's like clearances on both sides of the road. But we're just going to go 20 feet wide, okay? That is a little over 12 acres of surface, which has been logged and graveled. So the argument that it's being destroyed is flawed, right? Because the road to get there is a greater impact on the forest than the actual site that you're digging in. So if anything, you should have a problem with roads going out into the wilderness, not a dig site out on public lands, based upon that logic, of course. But to give you some perspective of the amount of public lands that we have in Washington, according to a 2014 report, we have about 19.8 million acres of public land. Just think about that. Hanson Creek, like 15. Total, 19.8 million, okay? That means Hanson Creek makes up 0.0001% of public lands in Washington. Virtually nothing. Nothing at all. The other argument I hear is, but it's pristine nature. Like, you shouldn't You shouldn't dig. You shouldn't leave your holes in this pristine nature. You need to backfill your holes, leave no trace, all of these things, right? Well, we just discussed the type of destruction that goes into the road to get you there. But let's address the whole, like, it's all dug up and holes left behind by people argument. So, we talked about their whole road leading into the site and how that's done more damage to the forest than the site itself. The best I can research that specific area, Hanson Creek, it's been logged and replanted twice now, which means it's so far from being a natural, untouched forest, right? It's just not. And, therefore, it's really no different than a farm. How is it different, okay? Like, you have corn growing, it's basically monocropped out, and every year you go and harvest it. How is that different than having a second, third, fourth, fifth generation forest replant that's horrifically mismanaged, that we go in and we log and we replant? It's not natural at all. That's like the epitome of man's interference, is it not? So is it still a problem to go and dig there when the road to get you there did more damage than the actual site being dug up, and it's not even a natural site to begin with? Well, then we have the argument of trash, all right? So in my own kind of digging around, the last 8 out of 10 posts about Hanson Creek being destroyed, they're from people who listed their location of residency as Seattle. Most of which, right, they drive past this every single day. Every day they're driving past this in the city of Seattle. But then they complain about this tiny, tiny spot in the forest. They complain that it's destroyed by trash, which by all accounts is very, very, very minor compared to the pile of trash that they're living in or living next to. The next argument that I hear a lot of is that they're going to shut it down if this continues. If sites get dug up, if there's trash left behind, the government's going to come in and they're going to stand on the throat of every single rockhound. Well, based on a number of things, some of which I've already discussed here, that seems very, very unlikely. First off, it's a tiny, tiny location. There's nothing illegal about it. There are no illegal activities happening as far as the rockhounding is concerned there. It would be a near impossible location to secure. Like, you can put armed guards out there, it's not going to happen. But however, when we look at areas in the Northwest that have actually been closed down for site remediation due to, people collecting rocks, it is not because of a guy with a shovel, right? It's people moving in and running illegal commercial operations where they're not self-collecting for some personal use in a happy weekend. They're dragging a backhoe out to a place that isn't under claim and just digging, taking it all, okay? That's when these spots actually get shut down. So I think that kind of covers a bunch of things. We covered the actual site. We've covered trash. We've covered that, I think that the vast majority of trash isn't being left by rockhounds, sites being dug up, the whole okay, so let's talk about the backfilling of holes for a second. If you go in, you dig a hole, and let's say the ground is 50% dirt, 50% rock. Most of the way people dig is they're throwing the rock aside and shoveling the dirt out, or maybe you're screening, at which point there's no real restoration that can be done. Yeah, you can backfill your holes, but realistically, I've ran polls here on the channel, and you're much better off leaving a hole open at a known dig site so that people can go and work that hole, as opposed to mucking it out and then digging. Not likely to do that. They're more likely to go to the periphery of an area and start a new hole, therefore expanding this area that's been impacted, okay? So based upon that fact, it'd be making more sense to leave holes open. So yes to holes, Okay, so we're getting a little long here, aren't we? So here's the part where you can stop watching, right? If you don't want to hear my opinion, because this is purely opinion. in that. I think what we have here with Hanson Creek is that you have a large amount of new rockhounds that haven't thought about many, if not all of the topics mentioned here, that live in a major metro area, driving to the woods for what might be one of the first times for them. You know, they don't get out that often. And they expect to have a beautiful experience in nature where they walk out into the woods and find amazing crystals just popping out of the ground. And it will be a beautiful experience with amazing beams of light shining through the forest. And they get disappointed when it's not that, and they see this hillside that's been all dug up and, you know, trees just falling down and stuff. And they're like, you know, oh, wow, that's not what they expected. You know, maybe you see some old water bottles, right? Maybe you see some micro trash. And, you know, you can maybe hear some obnoxious person in the distance playing music, you know? Like, oh, God, when we went to Hanson Creek, I think somebody's playing Nickelback. They're playing Nickelback in the distance. Now, if you're a Nickelback fan, you can just, there's unsubscribe button down there, right? I don't want to listen to Nickelback when I'm out there doing rockhounding stuff. That's, I find it to be offensive. I'm just kidding. Don't actually unsubscribe. You know, and then they get down and run the area down on, you know, Facebook or Reddit or whatever the place is, you know, and they're like, it's destroyed. How could this be? And really, the problem is they have very unrealistic expectations of the location. Just think about that. It's not the site's problem. It's their problem. Most of the people complaining weren't even born when Hanson Creek was found. So that's like moving next to the train tracks and complaining about the sound. You know, is it a railroad's problem or is it your problem? I'm looking at my notes. I also think that these people are in the minority. It's a very vocal minority, and they sure have a way of riling people up, don't they? But I think their opinion, if you really think it through, doesn't hold much water. Now, here's the thing. We'll wrap this up. You don't need to agree with me here. And I might be totally wrong. But if you're going to disagree with me, please come at me with facts and data the way I did right here. Don't come at me with some anecdotal claim of your spot was given out and then Rockhounds came there and trashed it. If you don't have proof of that, guess what? You don't have proof of that. Much more likely, it was somebody else that just happens to be using that same place. That's my opinion on it. Subject to change. But I thought I would share that here with y'all. I appreciate you coming by and listening to me talk about this subject. I think it's something worth discussing. And I hope to have a lovely conversation with people down in the comments. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole subject. Well, take care, everybody. Thank you so much for watching my entire video. If you like the content that I'm producing here on this channel and you want to support the content even further, you can do so by becoming a channel member by hitting the join button down below. The membership comes with a growing library of exclusive videos and just great other extra content. So just follow the links down below and I will see you on the next video.